Hello, today I will be explaining Agust's new song, Daechwita. That was so awkward. Okay. Starting with the title of the song, Daechwita is a genre of Korean traditional music that is generally performed while marching. It was used to play during the king's arrival, so Daechwita is basically symbolizing the great power. Yoongi sampled a part of Daechwita in the song and found the perfect balance between traditional music and modern hip-hop, just like Dang. I genuinely think that Dang and Daechwita are like the cool bullies in your school that you have a crush on, which, only exists in movies. Don't have a crush on your bullies, please, unless it's Dang or Daechwita. As the music starts, this part says, "Let me begin the Daechwita." And we are introduced to the first Yoongi, the king. In the music video, as you can see, he's sitting alone on his throne and there's nobody beside him except for a bunch of boxes. The general color grading is on the dark side and the scene as a whole appears a bit gloomy. And the clothes he's wearing right now is called, I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's one of the king's attires. Also, one of the things that genuinely excited me is his huge scar on his face. In Korean dynasties, you are not allowed to ascend the throne if you have a scar on your face. If you have watched the K-drama called Moonlovers, I think you'd probably know what I'm talking about. So Yoongi having that huge scar and still being the king is showing off how powerful he is. In a way, it could also symbolize how BTS became the world's biggest boy band despite getting called flop and failure in the beginning of their career. BTS also have their scars, but that didn't stop them from succeeding. In the next scene, when Yoongi steps outside, there's no one except for 8 bodies laying on the ground. Later in the video, it becomes clear that all these people are beheaded and the boxes next to them are supposed to hold their heads. So in the beginning, the boxes he had around him also had heads in them. As the traditional type of music ends, the scene also changes and we are introduced to the second Yoongi, the rebel one. Now the colors are much brighter and it's filled with people. You can tell from the video that all these people are commoners and most of them are actually butchers, the lowest class in Joseon era. His style of clothing is much more modern and different, which shows that this Yoongi is not following the system at all. And we have this one very particular scene of him and 2 other butchers that we later found out why it had to be included. As the rebel Yoongi walks down, no one really seems to pay that much attention to him, well, except Seokjin and Jungkook, which I'm happy to know that they are still together and bickering even in this universe. And the lyrics in this verse says, "Don't forget the days that have passed," before saying "We still fly." Though the king has his crown now, though the band now goes on a stadium tour filled with people screaming their name, he does not want to forget about his humble beginning. When the scene switches back to the King Yoongi, we can see that everyone is bowing down to him on their knees. No one even dares to look at him. But the lyrics are kind of similar as he talks about how they started as no one. He also cites the King Gwanghae in his lyrics, saying his flows are as powerful as the Gwanghae king. He is the 15th king of Joseon and his mother was a concubine. I read somewhere that he actually ruled and commanded the battles when his father, who was king at that time, even ran away. Not sure how credible that was, but his father really didn't seem like the best king. Despite this, he kinda had a bad reputation because he was despotic, but in modern days he's actually considered one of the wise king and there are several movies about him. Speaking of movies, there's a film called Masquerade which is about the King Gwanhei. In the movie, the King Gwanhei looks for a doppelganger to replace him occasionally because he was afraid of the constant threat of assassination and poisoning. And in the movie, the actual king does get poisoned, so his doppelganger replaces him. Later on to the movie, the doppelganger and the actual king kinda starts fighting for the throne. There's also a remake of this film, a K-drama called The Crowned Clone. So check these movies out if you're interested in historical Korean movies. Anyways, I think the music video was a bit inspired by the movie Masquerades. Moving on, we have another Joseon reference, the rice chest. It's about the crown prince Sado who died of starvation because he was put into a rice chest as a form of execution, which is terrifying. But the prince Sado killed several steps of the palace and even tried to murder one of the official's son. There's also a movie called The Throne that mentions this, so you can also check them out, I guess. Also, there's the line that is translated as "I ain't no weak pill popper like you" in the official music video that kind of caused some misunderstanding. He's definitely not coming for people who have to take medicine on daily basis because of their mental or health condition. Rather, he's criticizing how some people are doing drugs for the aesthetic purposes, which is stupid, by the way. As you guys know, the usage of drugs is kind of glorified in the Western hip hop culture. There's a lot of songs about just like getting high and being free. Now the Korean hip hop is also getting influenced by that, and I think Yoongi was just generally mad at how the usage of drug is kind of getting out of control. And also in one of his songs called "Dear My Friend," I think his friend actually offered him to do drugs with him. So he was just really mad at how this drug issue is getting out of control, which is, I think, why he mentioned this several times throughout the song. I don't necessarily think this was like specifically directed at someone. So if you think that he's talking about your fave when there's like literally not even a single name mentioned, I think you really have to reflect on your thoughts. And also here, the keychain we have in here is made out of jade. Jade is one of the most valuable stones and symbolizes wealth and also nourishment and gentleness. You can clearly see the contrast between the King Yoongi and the Gang Yoongi. The King Yoongi treats people really harshly, and even though it seems like there are people around him bowing down to him, they can't even look at him. On the other hand, the Gang Yoongi has a group of friends and supporters who's actually there for him. This iconic praise that translates into off their head or cut his head off is actually a line that is used in historical dramas before executing someone. Then the king is beheading people again. As you can see, they are keeping their head in that box, and there's like 12 other people waiting for their turn. It's actually a really horrifying scene because you can see that they actually hung people's head almost as accessories, and in all of those boxes he has heads of his enemies. You can even see the hair. This scene just shows how powerful and ruthless the king is. And the two Youngis finally meet each other. I love the scene so much because of how they are looking at each other. Both of them are so confident in themselves. By the way, that was a drawing of Bumpy Dame, who's his label CEO. He says he keeps dancing because the revenue is going higher and higher, and that letter written as Bumpy's mouth means dancing in Chinese. So yeah, it's a total flex. And the King Yoongi gives a thumbs up when the Gang Yoongi keeps his distance and just dances there because it's kinda entertaining to him. But when the Gang Yoongi decides to approach the king, his whole demeanor changes. And here we have the Gang Yoongi tied up by a rope before his execution because he crossed the line. And this verse is just perfect. The flow of the cinematography and the meaning is just beautiful. He's saying that he's so high up and there's nothing above him, so instead now he wants to look down instead of looking up like he always did. And the plot goes on in the music video. He starts banging his head to the rhythm, and suddenly everyone around him also starts doing so, which also shows that they were never really loyal to their king. But the king does this insanely attractive things with his sword, but does not behead the Gang Yoongi himself, I guess because he does not want to have the blood on his own hand. And we had the plot twist in here where this man frees the gang leader Yoongi instead of killing him. Remember those two butchers who had a very particular scene in the beginning exchanging looks with Yoongi? I think those are the same people who are the executioner. And the music video ends when the gang Yoongi kills the king Yoongi. So I think the gang Yoongi is the inner Yoongi from the past, or just the artist Yoongi who loves to make music. And the king Yoongi is the fame and success, which is kind of the outer layer of him as an artist. The whole music video shows the internal battle between them, which is not a brand new thing by the way. In the interlude shadow, there's also two Yoongi. One is at the top and one is standing below him. Everyone looks up to the Yoongi that is high up, and no one really pays attention when the other Yoongi is just walking through the crowd. Just like how it's portrayed in Daechwita. But the music video ends right when they met, so I think this could work as the sequel, I guess, where they actually fight and confront each other. In Shadow, the lyrics also mention how lonely and scary it's at the top, and he does say he wants to be the king, the rock star. Meanwhile, in Daechwita, he's the king, he's the boss. So he did achieve what he wanted. But in Shadow, there's also one particular lyric that says, "But my growing shadow swallows me and becomes a monster." So the King Yoongi in Daechwita could be the monster. However, in the end, Yoongi makes it clear that he wants to save the one who's genuinely him, who is not just the follower of a certain system, who is not just about fame and success. So he chose to kill that monster created by his shadow. He does not want to be the king, but he wants to stay with his friends, with his gang, and keep doing what he loves to do. I think some people had kind of the impression of this song was just about like Yoongi jerking off to himself and his achievements and being like gang gang. Rather, I think this song along with the music video just made a really clear distinction between the fame that he's having right now and the inner artist that is inside him, which is beautiful, I think. Yeah, that just was my explanation. I love the music video and the whole mixtape a normal amount. And also, if there's any theories or any explanation that you guys have in your mind, please let me know. I would love to read them. I will also be doing one of this kind of videos on the full mixtape as well. The whole mixtape was just so good. And I will try to do that as soon as possible. So look forward to that as well, I guess. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this video is at least a little bit informative and was not like a total waste of your time. So yeah, see you guys soon. Bye. I am so, oh my god.